Bible poems, Ezra. Persian kings are good news for shattered Israel. 2 centuries of converging interests, ruptured sometimes by upsets, brokered by disgruntled rivals. The Persians are the ones in power, but court the aid of Israel's God and others. Cyrus thinks he's using God, but God is using him. Plans of mercy for his people, restoration to their land and city, and an opportunity to rebuild their temple, and much more. So all begins with God, as ever faithful to his promises, this time to his word through Jeremiah. God stirs up the heart of conquering Cyrus, and then the hearts of those resolving to return. God's temple must be built. No grudging favour, generous gifts are granted. As for those returning, each has a link with former years and land remembered, ties with family or town. The people first, this is a people thing, then priests, Levites, and ancestral temple servants. Rich reward for keeping family trees. Their leaders, elusive Sheshbazzar, Judah's prince and early governor, royal Zerubbabel, emerging leader, and Jeshua, leader of the priests. No record of their journey, just that on arrival they settle in Jerusalem and their nearby towns. Not long before they come together in the city to begin what they had come for. Led by Jeshua, they restore God's altar in its ancient place before others could forestall them. Under the open sky, the twice daily sacrifices begin once more, and God is honoured by obedience to the law of Moses. Soon it's time to celebrate the Feast of Booths, with its memories of an earlier journey through the desert. Preparations then are made for a grand rebuilding programme, back to Tyre and Sidon for the cedarwood and craftsmen, using the highway of the sea. Masons too are gathered. Thankfully, Cyrus, king of Persia, will foot the bill. Within 2 years of their return, the building work begins in earnest, Zerubbabel and Jeshua leading. A celebration as the foundation is laid, led by priests and Levites who sing again their well-loved temple song. But what is that sound of weeping mingling with the shouts of joy? This is from the aged ones, old enough to have seen the glorious temple standing there before. Did they remember the deaf ears on which the prophet's warnings fell all those years ago? One message of Ezra is that kingdom work never does run smooth. And soon the problems start in a surprising way. We'd love to help you, say local adversaries. We learnt to worship God along with others when the Assyrians brought us here. No way, says Zerubbabel. What's more, we have strict orders from King Cyrus. Syncretism, the big enemy. Of course, that was just the start. By use of bribery and force, the work ground to a halt. Time passes, around 20 years, in fact. A new king and dynasty, turbulent times. In Judah, up step two prophets who remind them God is the one in charge and urge them to get building once again. Haggai and Zechariah. Zerubbabel and Joshua still there to lead, glad of prophets' help. This time it's the turn of Over-Governor Tattenai to call the work in question, but much more tactfully, sending to Darius and in the meantime not hindering the task. God's eye is on the builders. Have they got a building permit? Can you verify their story? Please search the records under the name tag Shesh Bazaar. Couriers ride to and fro across the mighty empires until the document is found. Yes, it's all in order. Cyrus ordered it, even the mighty stones you mention. Darius throws his own support behind the project. Give them all they need. Ask them to pray for me. Do it diligently, he ordered, and diligently they did it. With the God of Israel and the king of Persia giving the same orders, it's not too long before the work is finished. A joyful celebration follows, a glorious dedication. This time, Passover is the feast that comes, poignant as those return from exile remember those who in the Exodus left slavery in Egypt. The Lord of both gives joy. Time passes by, 60 years in fact. Now we meet the one who gives our book its name, Ezra. Rightly honoured in the Jewish memory, this priest could trace his family line right back to Aaron. On the Persian throne is Artaxerxes. It's God's time for another group of Jewish exiles in Babylon to return. Some will be reunited with families who left 80 years before. The new leader is a scribe as well as priest, leader of a line of many, skilled in the law of Moses. He sought it, brought it, taught it, model preacher. Once again, a pagan king wants things done properly in Judah, and the house of God well provided for. Godly Ezra is his man. His letter gives the mandate. Ezra takes the pen to tell us how he praised the Lord, then gathered exiles by a river. Reluctant priests and Levites sent for. Sherebiah was a real find. Ezra called a fast to pray for journey mercies, keen to live by faith and not ask for troops to guard them on their journey. These prayers were answered. No other comment on the 1,000-mile journey, just on a 3-day rest in Jerusalem, their destination, and on the careful stewardship of every item carried. So Ezra must have taken up the law of Moses and begun to teach it. In his account, he tells us of some news that shattered him. Officials gathered sheepishly round to spill the beans. You know all that stuff you've been teaching from the law about our call to separation, to be a holy race for God alone? Well, we're afraid we have already blown it. People, priests and Levites. You see, many of us have taken local pagan girls as wives. They're very pretty. We realise now that's just what Moses told the people not to do, for fear of false religion creeping in. That's it. We're very sorry. No sermon from Ezra, just tears of grief and mourning, then prayer and fasting. How could these, the returned exiles, God's remnant, have been so faithless to him? Spectacle at the evening sacrifice. The man speaks to his God with heartfelt moans and loving grief, prays about the sadness of the nation's history and their present plight. Tells God it isn't easy for them, just little tasters of his joy amidst the loss of freedom, homes and dignity. And now even that is blighted. At last the people cannot bear it any longer. They too are weeping as Ezra's tears hit home. We need to take some action. We must save the nation, find some hope in restored obedience. You've told us, Ezra, about God's covenants. Now it's time for our generation to make one, to sort this out for once and all. Ezra holds them to it, but with tears and mourning. A solemn assembly called at Jerusalem, early 3-line whip for those wishing to be counted as among the true community of Israel. Misery at the sad quandary, God's disapproval and the pouring rain. And so a sad solution, the lesser evil. The wives and children even are sent away, harsh to modern ears, and no precedent for Christ's people now. And so our Ezra ends. The Hebrew one includes a slightly happier sequel, enthusiastic hearing for Ezra's reading of the law when Nehemiah's walls are finished, joy of another festival of booths, more repentance, and a great revival.